Session, we're going to discuss the increment of the Tollgate fee that was passed in Parliament a few days ago, and we're going to look at the effects, implementation, and what will be the benefit for Sierra Leoneans after that increment in Parliament. And in the studio to discuss that, I've been joined by Imran Sillah from the Strategic Communication Unit, Ministry of Information and Civic Education. Imran, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes, and we're also expecting Daniel F.K. James, Director of Compliance and Enforcement, Passengers Welfare Organization, and Edmond Abu, Jr., the Executive Director for Native Consortium and Research Center. But before starting the conversation, let's take a report done for us by Morovia, who was in Parliament when that bill was passed by parliamentarians.
Following public outcry on the proposed increase on tollgate tariff by the Ministry of Works and Public Assets that was scheduled for implementation on the 1st of March, the Parliamentary Committee on Works and Public Assets was forced to put a hold on it. Concerns of the public was on the nail-biting increment, which many believe was to have a devastating effect on livelihood. Following consultations with stakeholders, the committee notes adjustment has been made that seeks operational efficiency and a balanced alignment with the interests of both investors and citizens.
Our committee embarked on its inquiry aiming to comprehensively assess the implications, stakeholders' perspective, and adherence to procedural norms in the formation and approval of the new toll charges. Throughout our inquiry, we engaged diverse stakeholders. In light of the justifications presented and the proposals submitted, our committee recommends adjustments to toll charges in accordance with the terms outlined in the concession agreement. These recommendations aim to uphold operational efficiency while ensuring a balanced alignment with the interests of both investors and citizens. In conclusion, I hereby present the final tariff adjustments, the final tariff structure contained in this report as unanimously agreed upon by the committee for your consideration and approval. I trust that this report will contribute to the informed decision making and the promotion of public interest in the management of our nation's infrastructure.
The proposed reduction presented by the committee for approval indicates a minimum of 3 leones for Group 1 and a maximum of 700 leones for Group 7, which includes heavy trucks above 12 tires, trailers and fuel tankers, among others. A proposal which seemed to have a consensus from both sides of the aisle.
Indicators you wait to see if those initially proposed prices were affected. They will come now. The indicators should have shown immediately. Those indicators, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, we are not going to be in favor on top of the challenges we face as a nation.
Taking all these points into consideration, and having gone through the report, I have seen that those proposed figures were adjusted downwards in the interest of our people whom we represent.
But listening to the people on the CSO and other people who have accepted that the committee should be in charge of certain things that you have agreed the principles. Mr. Speaker, we are now seized as Parliament under the Oversight Committee to make sure that these things are going to be done. We are, on principle, the chairman is the moral guarantor for the whole for this arrangement. There is going to be traffic lights. There is going to be street lights. There is going to be markets. And in fact, it should be 3 markets. 3 markets. There is going to be a development that will involve the MPs on the road corridors for our people, which we call locality development. That things that we will bring to them, and we'll say yearly or how do we arrange it under the corporate social responsibility.
At the end of the day, the report was adopted by the House.
that the report of the Parliamentary Committee on Works and Public Assets on an inquiry into the proposed adjustment of the Waliti Mashaka Tollgate tariff be adopted by this House. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Ronald Jomorovia, AYV News, Freetown.
Thanks to Roland J. Morovia for putting that report together in Parliament. And that was a scene a few days ago in Parliament. But quickly, how it's going to look like the new adjustment of the toll gate fees. For Group 1 is 3,000 leones, and Group 2 is 5,000 leones. Group 3 is 10,000 leones. Group 4 is 40,000 leones. Group 5 is 250,000 leones. Group 6 is 400,000 leones, and Group 7 is 600,000 leones. And Group 5 was the most talked about, which was proposed for 700,000 leones, and which reduced to 400,000 leones as well. But Imran, from what the parliamentarians said, there will be some improvement and some development with regards to the corridor from where the toll gate started and from the Wellington to Mashaka as planned from that road. But there are still concerns from people, those who are using vehicles, and said their tendency for vehicles Puda guys to increase their fees. How that is going to affect people who are applying that route?
Well, thank you very much, David. I'd like to take our minds back to where it all started. It started in 2015. It was first taken to Parliament in 2015 when there were conversations between the Chinese group, CISG, and the government of Sierra Leone, as to how to improve the road between Jue to Mashaka. And that was for several reasons. The data then suggested that there were a lot of accidents, and the roads were not necessarily pliable. They were fraught with potholes and all the rest of it. And so government at that time was of the view that the only way to minimize road accidents and make it more pliable was to have an investment along that stretch. But then, as is the case with developments, government does not necessarily have the money. So you now have to go out and look for partners in development. These are projects that are regarded as bankable projects. So an investor comes in, sees the viability, discuss terms with government, and if there's an acceptance, then they can now move forward from that stage to the next. This was a contract that was approved by Parliament, I think, in 2017. And in any contract, there are three elements to it. One, there's a consideration as provided for by law. Two, there's an offer. Three, there's an agreement. Now, not all agreements are contractual, meaning they do not have the force of law. But all contracts are agreements. And so for any agreement that the state gets into with any group or business, for it to have the required legal backing and legal effect, it goes to Parliament. Parliament at that time, which was very much bipartisan, like it is now, did look at the fine details of that agreement, and it was adopted by Parliament. And ultimately, President at that time gave concurrence. The road was done under certain terms and conditions, what would trigger an increase or not trigger an increase, and all the rest of it. The dollar exchange rate then was 7,500. Now it is at 22.5 or so. So clearly, over time, things had changed, and therefore CRSG made reached out to government to say, look, we have moved from 7,500 to 22,500 now, and therefore we would like to trigger a clause in the agreement when it comes to price review, right? And so that discussion has been going on, I mean, for some time now. We got to some finality, and then Parliament intervened and said, no, we would like to have a second look. And so that is where we are now. Parliament, unanimously, and that is also bipartisan, it has to be emphasized, has adopted this new agreement, and it now means that it will take effect. But then, you know, the point I think the public has to note is that, I mean, a country cannot get into an agreement which has the legal force of law, right, with any group or individual and backs out of it, right? If you are to do so, you have to do so for very good reasons, because what it does is it tends to affect investor confidence and all the rest of it. Now, to your point and the question you asked, is it going to have a knock-on effect? Oh, certainly. That's my sense. But then, I mean, I think reasonably through the Ministry of Transport and Aviation, they would have a conversation with transport owners, right, to determine what those knock-on effects might look like.
The other concern, you know, I was listening to Edmond Abu, who seems to be championing the issue, you know, raising voice, you know, for the ordinary people. His concern is that whether government, you know, should consider saying that, you know, we should remove one of the toll gates. You know, we have 3 of them, and how we should be able to remove one of them, because his concern is about those big trucks, you know, that will be plying that route and will be paying 600,000 leones. Imagine you're paying 600,000 leones for 3 toll gates, and that is very huge. And by the time you arrive with the goods here in Freetown, then it's increased itself, because you've paid toll gates, you have paid for, or you've buy your fuel, and these are also concerned. Is government consider something like that, more especially to those big trucks?
So, I mean, I was fortunate to be, at some point, to be part of the conversation, well, to have an opportunity to listen, not necessarily part of the conversation, to have an opportunity to listen to those conversations. And my sense was, and still is, that, I mean, for those with those heavy-duty trucks, I mean, 12 tires and above, they're the ones that bring the greatest wear and tear, if you like, right, to that stretch of the road, and therefore, because ordinarily, I mean, every road has a lifespan anyway. When roads are being done or bridges are being done, they'll tell you this has a lifespan of about 30, 35, 40, or 50 years under certain conditions, meaning under normal temperature and pressure, if you like. And so once you begin to utilize that particular service being provided, in this particular instance, the stretch of the stretch between Masheka to Jui, and more so by trucks in excess of 10, 12, 14, 16 tires. I mean, it has its own impact and effect. And therefore, CRSG Group would find itself in a position where it has to invest again on the roads, right? To continue to keep them in the shape it is right now. And so therefore, there was that consideration that they should bear the greatest responsibility, if you like. I mean, back to your point again, your initial point. Yeah. Is it going to have a knock-on effect? Oh, certainly, because those trucks usually come with the goods out of Freetown to other parts of the country, or you bring them into Freetown, and definitely, if you add the fuel elements to it, like you mentioned, there's definitely going to be a knock-on effect. But then, look, government is aware that there's definitely going to be consequences. Right, and so, I mean, you would expect that the Ministry of Transport, and I'm sure they are in consultations now with transport owners of those heavy-duty trucks, to make sure there is a conversation as to what the expectations would be.
The other area is about the benefits. You know, I listened keenly to, you know, members of parliament, you know, more especially the leader of government business, you know, when he was saying that some of the benefits that people will be having, like street lights, you know, and traffic lights, and market, and other developments as well. And people are very excited, and the issue is that how soon some of these things will be visible, you know, more especially when they believe it hasn't passed in Parliament, and you see the eagerness of people to see what development will follow, you know, from the increment of the toll gate.
I mean, let me also add that, I mean, this is, I think it's a 25-year agreement, and so, and that means they're here for the foreseeable future. It's built, operate, and transfer, and so they have done the road. They're definitely going to, I mean, through the toll gates, be able to recoup the investment plus profits naturally, make the roads pliable up until the lease expires, and then, I mean, it is transferred over to Sierra Leoneans, basically. Yes, I think the Parliament has also indicated now, like you mentioned, that they would ensure that CRSG as a group begin to fix traffic lights and, you know, street lights and all the rest of it, but then also fulfill their own parts, I mean, to those communities, as in corporate social responsibility, doing markets and all the rest. I mean, that would help to I mean, it shows goodwill, basically. It shows goodwill on their part when it happens, that they have not just come to focus on the road between Jue to Mashaka, right, but everything in between. I mean, it should also be part of their responsibility. It wouldn't necessarily take away those knock-on effects naturally, because that's it's a different permutation altogether. But then, I mean, at the end of the day, we have an agreement, right? We are contractually obliged to follow through on, and it's the same for every other agreement. So CRSG is not the only group that Sierra Leone has an agreement with. Interestingly enough, I mean, if I may, let me make this point, that whenever contracts are agreed between any group and Sierra Leone government, there is a way it is being expressed, stated in that contract. It says the government of Sierra Leone. And there's a reason why it says the for every contract. So if you go to the Leone Rock Metal Group, it says an agreement between the Sierra Leone government and Leone Rock Metal Group. Or if you go to Rutile, I mean, if you look at those, that contract, it says the government of Sierra Leone, and there's a reason for that. Because, look, in the lifespan of any nation, individual governments come and go, right? But that once there is an agreement that is binding, it is often understood to mean the government, as in whatever government is in place at that material point in time, is obviously obliged to, by law, to follow through on those contracts. So I'll give you another example. There's this new city hall where the mayor now resides, right? And I'm sure there are other offices. That was a loan that was secured from the Exim Bank. I think it's Exim Bank in South Korea or Japan.
Korea,
South Korea, exactly. And there is a 45-year period plan. But then for the first 15 years, the government of Sierra Leone, even though that was an agreement that was reached in the previous administration, right? But then every successive government has a responsibility, right, to follow through on that agreement. So some of the government is not going to come at the time when we have to start paying and say, well, oh no, not we've been do that one day, so we do not feel obliged, right, to follow through. No, you have a responsibility because it has the backing of the law. That is why it is a contract. So for the new City Hall, it is a 45-year plan. For the first 10 to 15 years, the government of Sierra Leone does not have to pay back. After 15 years, so there's a hiatus of 15 years.
Yeah.
After 15 years, we now have to pay, I think, at 0.01%. Yeah? That could mean, it could mean anything, and that would also be based on the exchange rate at that material point in time. That is what those considerations would have to look like when the government of Sierra Leone starts to pay back for the new City Hall, and that is over a period of 25 years at 0.01%. It was a fine deal at the time, but you don't know what the economic situation is going to look like in another 15 years or so when we start to pay back. So, I mean, I have mentioned it just so we understand, right, what is at play here and probably appreciate it a little bit more, that this, I think, has been done by this government in the best interest of the sort of image, right, we would like to maintain that Sierra Leone is an investor-friendly country, and that if you come and there's a contract between your group and the state, that agreement would be fulfilled and respected. That sends a certain signal, right, to the outside world to say, well, this is the place to come and do business, right? Because they respect contracts, they follow through on contracts. Yes, we can have conversations going forward, depending on those situations. So, I mean, another case in point would be with the car power ship.
Yeah.
At our press conference on Tuesday, 2 days ago, the Chief Minister, David Morina Senge, has indicated that he would be flying to Turkey. That is where I think the owners of the car power ship are. He will be flying to Turkey together with the Deputy Minister 1 of Energy and the Deputy Minister of Finance, right, to see if they could have a conversation over the contract as it is now and see if we could get a better deal. So, I mean, you know, that shows that government respects its contract, but then, is also trying to see if we could get a better deal, right, and have a conversation around that. And so there's an element to this CRSG contract, I think, where parliamentarians have indicated in the report that at some point, no definite time given, at some point, a conversation can be initiated with the group to see how we can probably redefine the terms of the agreement.
The other area is monitoring, and that is very significant in ensure effectiveness, more especially what is in the documents and implementation of it as well. It's monitoring, and we interviewed the Minister of Works, Dr. Dennis Sandy, and it was clearly saying that here, you know, that government will monitor the Chinese, more especially in how they collect their monies and in terms of accountability, and because that has been the concern for many Sierra Leoneans. And over the years, the Chinese people have been, the CRSG, they have been warning that Tollgate, they're expecting them to be making huge money. That's the perception of Sierra Leoneans. And but the minister said the CRSG cannot, you know, report. But at this time, they will ensure the reports, you know, yearly and quarterly, how they're running that toll gate in order to ensure effectiveness and also accountability. And in turn, government will be reporting to Sierra Leoneans, you know, with regards to progress, you know, on that toll gate.
So two things I'm going to say. Number one, I think that's a commitment that was echoed again by Parliament. Obviously, Parliament has an oversight committee responsible, working with the Ministry of Works, and it falls under its purview to make sure that they follow through on these situations and monitor them closely. I'm sure they understand what needs to be done, and they have already made that commitment. The ministry too, I'm sure, will do the needful in making sure that they follow through on what needs to be done, making sure not only CRSG but other entities associated with the Ministry of Works are doing the right thing and fulfilling their obligations. The second thing I'm going to say is Yes, I understand, and I think we acknowledge that that has been a grey area on this data in terms of vehicles plying that particular route. We've had civil society organizations asking or raising questions as it relates to the data, because, I mean, they feel in their view that that would inform not only them, but the public and also government as to what those charges should look like, right? But then, look, I think government recognize that we need to be able to have a conversation around the data, and you see Parliament giving that commitment also. I'm sure that is something that has been dealt with, right? And it is something that both Parliament and the Ministry of Works, I have no doubt in the minister in charge of that ministry, that he would continue to do the needful to make sure that those reviews will continue to be very fair and reasonable, and that nobody is taking advantage of Sierra Leoneans. We are where we are because of a contract that was entered into in 2017, which has the effective law which has the backing of the law, I would say, and therefore we have a responsibility to follow through.
I know there are so many concerns, but let's go to the Facebook page and see comment from people. And first comment from Roland Bresford George Tony saying Sierra Leone is being run like a casino where successful governments come in renegotiate deals with no proper economy due diligence for the betterment of the country. They will tell how they have carefully made checks and balances only to find out that they made economy disaster and the country suffers, and it's taxpayers who bear the brunt of heat, and the toll gate is just another saga in Sierra Leone legacy of perpetual economic failure. And that is from Roland Bresford George Stone. Most days say, so what was Alhaji Kemosi say, the then APC ministers was in charge of this contract going on about? Now that we have seen his party is these increments, the message is not clear anyway. Creo Bobo is saying if this government renegotiated the mining contract, why they did not do the toll gates issue as well. And George Tambasalu is saying, do you have an estimate amount so since the inception of these toll gates? That is from George Tambasalu. And Kribobo again is saying the castigating effect of the toll gate increase will cause more economic burden on our people, and that is from Kribobo. And most days say so. Both major parties went to bed with the Chinese and burden the people with more cost of living crisis, and that is from Mosdi. And Hassan Hussein Conte says even the toll gate and its environment has become depreciated. No maintenance, the paint safe don't crack, and that is from Conte. And Roland is saying you can say that again, my brother. I wonder what I think Roland is actually responding to someone else. But these are comments, you know, and Imran from our Facebook page. Sierra Leoneans are concerns also for maintenance, more especially when during the rainy seasons you see the streets were flooded, and you know, and it's blocked the entire road, and people cannot pass until it's been clear. And how are we going to ensure monitoring in that area to ensure we see the beautification of that Wellington Mashika toll gate?
Yes, before I come to that, let me. There is a post there which is asking why didn't we cancel like we did for the mining agreement or contract that we had. during President Bio's first term. And that is something I've had, right, several times. Yesterday I was at EPIC, and it came up again. But David, I'm sure you'd agree, well, acknowledge, I should say, that, I mean, at the time when that mining agreement was cancelled, there was a reaction that wasn't necessarily good from the public. Why did we do it? We don't even have the money to go to court. We're losing out. It's affecting investors' confidence and all the rest of it. And you know, and I said yesterday, and I wish to repeat myself again, that government finds itself in a position where you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't, right? When that contract was cancelled and we had to revisit it and renegotiate it, we were damned, right, by the public. We didn't need to do it. I mean, people have lost their jobs and all the rest of it. It's affecting investors' confidence, blah, 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 blah. Somehow we were able to get favorable terms different from what obtained at that time, which is 10% on diluted free interest. But the question is, for me, it is not something, every situation is different, number one, right? Every contract has its own uniqueness. That is something you also have to take into account. The advisors at Guma Building, I mean, advise accordingly, I mean, based on the unique nature of every single contract and what position or posture government can adopt, and I'm sure it's no different in this particular instance. We have a responsibility. Ultimately, Parliament recognizes that responsibility, that if we want to attract big businesses, if we want to attract big investors, if we want to do development, right, and get the necessary partnership for development, right, public-private partnership, and that we cannot be seen to be cancelling contracts every single time, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, keep cancelling contracts. No investor would come. Nobody would want to come and invest their money in Sierra Leone and say, well, this is a place to do business, because optics and perception is often different from what the reality is. Investors would begin to think and say, they might not necessarily even know those fine details as to what is happening. All they see in front of them is a country that does not respect its own contract that it gets into, right? And therefore they'll say, oh, no, that's not the place I want to go. I'd rather go somewhere where there's stability, where whatever the nature of the contract, people have a responsibility to respect them. If even those terms and conditions are going to be renegotiated, there has to be a way to get it done. And, you know, that is what would attract, I mean, big investors, and that is why people would want to come and invest their monies in Sierra Leone. We want to have that kind of climate and adopt that kind of posture. His Excellency the President has traveled a lot across the globe, right, in making the case for Sierra Leone, trying to appeal and attract big investors or multilateral partners or bilateral partners, right, to come and invest. And therefore, we have to be seen to be doing the right things. I mean, even if there are contentious issues, we have to get it amended and fixed in the right and proper way. And I think, look, at the end of the day, Parliament has done the needful. They have taken a second look at what was agreed between CRSG and government, right, through the Ministry of Works very recently. That was why the date for the increment was put on hold, because Parliament had to do their own work in making sure that it was going to be done in the right and proper way. And, you know, whatever happened in Parliament, nobody's going to say, oh, this was just SLPP parliamentarians. No, APC parliamentarians were not there. No, it was a bipartisan approach. Both APC and SLPP parliamentarians, including paramount chiefs, right, who are also MPs, sat in Parliament. They have spent at least in excess of 5-6 weeks exhaustively going through page by page, word for word, every single thing that is in the agreement, in the contract, and they have come to their conclusion, which they have made, which has been made known to the public unanimously. They have adopted what was before them, with some slight changes on categories 5. That was split into categories 5 and 6 and all the rest of it. This is where we are. I think given the circumstances, given the contract we entered into in 2017, this is the best possible outcome that we could have arrived at.
And you know, part of the agreement, they created a new category, which is category 6, and that's about 600,000 leones. And you know, so people are thinking, you know, which of these vehicles probably will be into that category 6. I know it's going to be the pillars and the big tankers, you know, which will be into that category. But they are concerned that why, you know, that negotiation in terms of creating a new category when we have 5 of them.
Well, I mean, I think the initial disposition was certain amount of trucks were lumped together, right? And in the view of Parliament, I think there needed to be a distinction between 12 tires and below and 12 tires and upwards, or 10 tires and below and 10 tires and upwards. And therefore they felt, based on the conclusion that the charges should be different, right? Honorable Tawa, I sent him a text a few days ago, and he sent this to me. He said, yes, category 5 was split into 2 categories, 5 and 6. Category 5 from 100 to 250, 100, I think 100 leones to 250, from what he sent to me. 12 tires and below. And these are mostly vehicles that bring goods to the city from the province. Above 12 tires, I think it's 700. You know, so they have sort of created, well, brought clarity, right, and created a distinction, right, on those big trucks that apply those goods. Don't forget also, like I said, that those are the trucks that bring the greatest wear and tear, right, to these roads. So if it has a lifespan of 30, 35, 40, 50 years, the more 12 tires and above trucks that you see plying that route, then it means the lifespan of that particular road isn't going to be exactly 40 years as stated. Right? And therefore, for as long as they have a lease agreement, they would have to do a lot more maintenance on that road. And I think that's the consideration. And that is what got them to a point where they feel that, together with government, obviously through the Ministry of Works, that they feel that those trucks should actually pay more. I mean, I have to make the point again, like I have said, that indeed it has a knock-on effect, and but I'm sure those are conversations that would happen in some other quarters as to what those knock-on effects might look like.
In 5 or 6 minutes, Imran, I want to take you away from the toll gates, and I listened to the Chief Minister during the government's press briefing organized by your ministry. And the Chief Minister, well, I will not say was quite angry with the issue surrounding the electricity, but it was actually speaks from his mind, and he was saying that there are big issues, you know, that we should be able to look into currently, and was honest enough to say that there are ministries also who are still in light, and who governments, you know, huge money, EDSA as well, and is actually saying that is going to ensure that, you know, those ministries who EDSA should pay back, and those who are actually still in electricity should ensure that they stop and ensure, you know, a flow of electricity in the country. What is the point the Chief Minister was actually putting on that day?
So, I mean, I was in the room on Tuesday, right, from start to finish, and I don't necessarily, I'm of the view that he was angry. I think there was a sense of frustration, and that's understandable. Who doesn't feel frustrated from time to time? I mean, based on the issues at hand. And I think the Chief Minister was very frank and candid also. And we did see these frustrations from the way he spoke. But then, and for the right reasons, I have to add, for the right reasons. Because so much has been done in 6 years. And the Chief Minister alluded to those also, right? We have expanded energy access. Fact. There are places out of Freetown now that now have access to energy. Kono were there before the elections with His Excellency the President to turn the light on, right? We know Tongo now is on the CLSG line. Yeah. Bo and Kenema, there's substantial improvement now, right, because of the CLSG line. We know those lines are running through Kamakui now. We also know that there is district electrification project ongoing. 3 out of the 5 are near completion. So that's Kabbalah, that's Cambia, that's Moyamba, my home district. That's Moyamba, that's Pujao, and that's Kailao. Right, we know that all of those are on course. We also know, as a matter of fact, and so these are not data and statistics generated by governments. Somebody sat in a room somewhere in a government building and generated these data and statistics, which have been bandied about, and we're happily talking. No, these are independent reviews as to what has happened in the energy sector over a period of 6 years, yeah? Or, I mean, in a period of 6 years. That energy access has been doubled. We met it at 15%. We can safely say it is now at 35%, right? That's the most recent survey that was done. So all of those have happened. But yes, we acknowledge and concede that there are challenges. And what's the way forward, right? Car power ship is never going to be a long-term solution to the energy problems. His Excellency the President in his address at Independence talked about where we would like to be. 75% of our energy we would like to be through alternative sources of energy. We also know, as a matter of fact, that we have at least 120 communities across the country who now have solar mini-grid, right? In those solar mini-grid projects, across the country, 120 communities are actually benefiting from that right now as we speak. So the Chief Minister showed his frustration, and I subscribe to those frustrations, by the way, yeah? That, number one, we need to be able to look at the internal dynamics, right, at EDSA and the energy sector, right? What's the best possible way to move forward? Having achieved so much, over a period of 6 years, how do we now move forward, given the challenges we face in Western area particularly, and the car power ship? How can we deal with that? He did indicate that he would be traveling this weekend together with the Deputy Minister One at the Ministry of Energy and the Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Finance to go to Turkey to see if they can have a conversation on the contract with car power ship and review some parts of that agreement. And so he's traveling this weekend together with the team to have further conversations with car power ship. Whilst by the same measure, right, he's looking to see, well, government is looking to see how we can bring effective and efficient delivery of service at the Ministry of Energy. And I think those are all legitimate things to do. We understand the public's concern. It's not as if when you have blackouts, EPICS, SLPP from APC, from C4C to NGC, no. It affects everyone. And we had power cut for about 10 days in Western area. This is something that government takes very seriously. Despite all of what we have achieved in 6 years, yeah? Despite all what the data suggests, yes, we acknowledge that Western area has its own challenges, and that is something we need to get to the top of. His Excellency the President is now in full control of the Ministry of Energy, right? Together with the presidency, I'd like to add, because when you talk about the presidency, you're also making reference. When you talk about the president, you're also making reference to the presidency. Yeah. He has a team around him that will be superintending over affairs at the Ministry of Energy, and we hope that, and we know that will bring effective and efficient delivery of service at the energy sector.
I know it's probably it's catch the attention of the president, after the minister itself resigned from that position, Alhaji Kanja Sise. And most people were expecting the minister to appoint, the president, sorry, to appoint a new minister to head that ministry. And, you know, and the president did not. And I think he appointed a new
deputy minister
too. Yeah. And, you know, and the deputy minister, one is still there, and, you know, and is actually to second to the president. And the president decided not to appoint someone, you know, to head that ministry, but himself heading that ministry. That shows the seriousness of the president, you know, committed in deliver, more especially the energy sector. Is it that there are big problems into the energy sector, you know, that actually prompted the president not to appoint a minister, but himself says, I'm going to head this ministry until I rectify, you know, the problems there?
Well, I mean, I'd say that there are problems germane to the development aspirations of His Excellency the President as it relates to the energy sector. And that is why His Excellency the President has taken control of the Ministry of Energy. Let me also add that, look, Alhaji Kanja Sise is someone I'm sure the President deeply appreciates for his service, right, to country since April of 2018. He has a long-standing career in public service, spanning 3 decades, if not more. He has been at NAXA under the late President Ahmed Tijan Kaba. Right? He has been serving in so many other capacities, right? As it pleased President Tijan Kaba then, now President Julius Maada Bio, right, to appoint him as Minister of Energy. I think the longest serving Minister of Energy, right, in this country. He's served for one full term, 1 year on. In the second term of President Julius Maada Bio, he has chosen to resign. Look, at the end of the day, I think we all owe him a depth of gratitude, right, for his service and his contribution to national development, to the aspirations of President Julius Maada Bio. I'm sure, like every other individual who has left government, we owe them all a depth of gratitude, right? He's no different, and I think his record stands out in public service over 30 years. I sleep and wake every morning, Remy, praying that I would have such a lifespan of public service. I hope, right? But you don't know it in God mark, right? He has hoped in 30 years, and God be mark and for him. He was going to span a period of 30 years in public life and in public service. That is something that doesn't come easily. It takes its toll over time. It has its own implications and all the rest of it. And we wish him all the best, I'm sure, right? On behalf of government, we wish him all the best. He would forever be remembered, and I'm sure there's a lot of respect that people have for him. But then, you know, government has to move on, right? There's a job that needs to be done. It's about the aspirations and vision of His Excellency the President, retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio. It's about his commitments during the campaign on the Big Five, right? Our manifesto talks about consolidating the gains, right, and accelerating development. His Excellency the President is on top of the energy sector now, making sure that there's issues that needs to be addressed. But look, we also have to make the point, and this is something that the Chief Minister said on Tuesday at our press conference. There's not going to be any easy fix to the problems we face in the energy sector. So it's not something we're going to fix in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. No. I mean, we can safely say this is a medium to long-term project, right? We know that the United States government has committed some money for supply and distribution lines, I think, and that includes Western area. And part of the problem we have, and this is something we have said a number of times and continue to make that point, even if King Tom car power ship uploads 100 megawatts, this city cannot take 100 megawatts because of the supply and distribution lines that we have. They are old. Andrew Kiley said on Epic some days ago, I think it was on Monday, he was on Epic Radio, and we know he's an expert when it comes to energy and engineering and all the rest of it. He said, look, these supply and distribution lines that we have in Western area were meant to last for, they have a lifespan also. They were meant to last for 30, 35 years. Here we are, 70 years on. Since the infrastructure was built, it had a lifespan of about 30, 35 years. 70 years on, these are the same supply and distribution infrastructure that we have in this country. It has to be overhauled. It is capital intensive. It doesn't come cheap, right? So even if car power ship uploads 100 megawatts, this city cannot take 100 megawatts. So we'll have to rely on load shedding, right? Making sure that the areas that would have, the areas that wouldn't necessarily get electricity, not every day, and all the rest of it, simply because of the supply and distribution lines that we have. That is where the focus is. And in getting those fixed, it takes some time. It's capital intensive. Once the United States commitment comes through, you now have to talk about procurement procedures, going through those procurement, making sure that those things are brought to Sierra Leone. They begin the actual work now in getting them fixed, changing the supply and distribution line. Already we know work is being done in some parts of Tembertown, because I see them working on the supply and distribution lines, but then also along King Tom. If you apply those routes, you would see energy officials trying to get the supply and distribution lines done and all the rest of it. So work is being done, right?
Yes,
but then it needs much more investment. And I think the United States government has shown commitment. This is something we're grateful for. So there's a medium to long-term approach. His Excellency the President is committed, forever committed, in making sure that this is something we can change. The way forward has to be getting the supply and distribution lines up to speed and up to date, but then also relying on alternative sources of energy, because that's the way to go, right? Alternative sources of energy, 70% over a period, whether it be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, in making sure that our source of energy doesn't have to be through car power ship. That is the way to go. That is what would help Sierra Leone stabilize, right, its electricity needs.
I know, and if you move along, from Waterloo to 3 Mile, 6 Mile, Newton, moving up front, you will see their progress. There are street lights, there are cables, along that line, both new and old road, and it shows there are a lot of improvements, and people who are living within that community, from 3 Mile, 6 Mile, Newton, are excited to see light, for the first time in the history in their life, I know the light stopped at 5-5 and Waterloo, and from that point, and those who live from that point, they have not been having the opportunity to get light. But with the poles, plying that route and the cables as well, it shows that there will be soon see lights in that area. I remember, one of few weeks ago when they were actually passing the cables, and some of the people are excited and saying, "Oh, we can't get light, for the first time in their life." Like you mentioned, these are commitment from the president to ensure electricity everywhere. Not only in the country's capital city, but other places as well, benefit from light facility. And recently I saw the U.S. Embassy saying that there are negotiations on the MCC, and part of that is also how they can able to support the energy sector, and which is very big. And we've seen, factories in Sierra Leone, and all of these factories, they need, big electricity to be able to move their machines, and there are more coming in, and how to sustain those business. If we can run Sierra Leone with proper electricity to sustain those factories as well is very important. But how government is going to speed enough, to get things done. And recently, we saw government paid, the cat power ship $18 million, and also the CLSG, I think $1.5 million as well to upkeep electricity in the country. And, but, there are more commitments. There are more things to be done in order to ensure the electricity able to be stabilized?
We still have outstanding debts to fulfill with car powership, but then obviously government can have those conversations and set up a payment plan. There's also financial commitments with the CLSG line. That's the Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Guinea, and whatever line. Government would also have those conversations in making sure that there's a payment plan. I mean, again, coming back to the point, I mean, we all feel frustrated, every single one of us, and that is what you saw from the Chief Minister. I do feel frustrated equally. I feel frustrated because we have achieved so much in 6 years, yeah? But then you sort of get a sense that the optics and the perception out there is that nothing has happened in 6 years. That is enough to make you feel frustrated, right? That is enough to get you to want to do more and help to stabilize, because we acknowledge that Western area has its own uniqueness. It has its own challenges, yeah? But outside Western area, you mentioned other parts of the country where there's electricity now. We can safely sit and say 120 communities, towns and villages now have access to electricity because they have solar mini-grid projects that have been put up in those communities, and they now have access to electricity. Yeah. That has helped kids who would want to study for public exams at the expense of government. I mean, those who are doing some small businesses in those towns and villages. We have seen a significant improvement, right, uptick in businesses in those towns and villages. We know that a district electrification project is on. 3 out of 5 is near completion now in Kabala, in Kambia, in Moyamba, in Pujon, and in Kailang. And here we are in Western area with our own challenge. But then, you know, I mean, I keep telling people, and this is something I would like to make again. We sit down in Western area, Remy, and have the luxury to talk about lights day, lights not day. For someone my age, your age, born in Kabbalah, they only know what generator is. They were born in darkness. They've lived for 40 years in darkness, right? And some have died in darkness, right? For all those who've lost their lives in those places through natural causes and all the rest of it, right? 60, 65, 70 and above. They were born, right? Lived in those places for all their life. They did not know what electricity is and would never have the opportunity because they're no longer alive. Now, for the first time since independence in this country, those communities are on the verge of having electricity. That is something I think we need to be grateful for. We also need to throw into these conversations. Yeah? Yes, there are challenges, but this is how far we have come. This is how much we have done. We have added places in Sierra Leone that never had the opportunity. We're not even thinking about having electricity, not for the foreseeable future, but for the vision of President Julius Maada Bio, his determination, his passion, his desire, right? We are where we are today. And so we have to also take that into consideration. And so when people criticize us as a government and criticize His Excellency the President or criticize the Chief Minister and say, oh, we're not doing enough, frustration sets in because we know how much we have done, right? This is something we talked about during the campaign. You remember, leading up to the elections last year in June 2023-24, right? How much we did, how much we went around this country talking about our energy achievements, along with education. David Moinena Senge, who's the Chief Minister now, was the Minister for Basic and Senior Secondary School Education. All the achievements, right, we made at that material point in time was because of David Moinena Senge as Minister for Basic and Senior Secondary School. And these were things we talked about during the campaign, significantly and sufficiently enough, right, for people to elect President Julius Maada Bio again for his second and final term as President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Right. But yes, we understand and acknowledge and concede that there are challenges, but that those challenges are not insurmountable. So the Chief Minister said that on Tuesday, that the challenges we face in the energy sector, right, but then more broadly on the economy, Those are not challenges that are insurmountable. We will continue to do our best. I'm absolutely confident and sure that President Julius Maada Bio has a determination, has so much energy. He feels completely upbeat about the possibilities. So I'll just leave you with two as I round up.
Yeah.
The first has to be on the Wages and Compensation Commission, and this is something I've talked about lately. Yeah. Not much has been heard about it. During his first term as President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, there was a Wages and Compensation Committee that was put together, I think by the Public Sector Reform Unit. Yeah. There was a Ghanaian consultant that was brought in. He did his job. I think it was over a period of 2 years. That report was now sent to Cabinet. Cabinet gave concurrence. It went to Parliament. And we have started seeing the fruits of this harmonization and wages thing, bringing parity among civil servants. I know that hundreds of public and civil servants, right, across government, I think from grade 7 to 12 or 13, are now earning, have now experienced over 200% increase in their salaries. I can say that for a fact, right, because I know that a HR officer who was getting 1,500,000 in old money, or 1,500 in the new Leones now, is now at least taking home over 5 million, right? You don't hear that as much, civil servants, and they say, get on, we're not all chin and they talk, and they clock them money and then up and salary. So when people talk about wage bill going up, it is precisely because of that. We also know that foreign workers coming into Sierra Leone were paying next to nothing some time ago. That has been reviewed through the Ministry of Labor, Honorable Rado Suarez. I mean, that money has been increased. It has gone through Cabinet and Parliament. I think it has been approved. There's now at least a 500% increase now on foreign workers coming into Sierra Leone. So it means more revenue for government, in a sense, in that particular sector for foreign workers coming into Sierra Leone. We also know that through the Ministry of Health, Dr. Austin Dembi and the Ministry officials, and there's a government commitment to that, there are about 1,000 to 2,000 nurses are being recruited right now as we speak, who are going through the process. So it is not all doom and gloom, right? There are a lot of beautiful things happening. And His Excellency the President is committed in making sure that we continue to meet our targets and meet those manifesto commitments.
Thank you very much, Imran Sillah, and from the Ministry of Information and Civic Education, talking to AYV, into the program. Like I mentioned, on this conversation, we're supposed to have Edmond Abu Jr. from the Native Consortium and Research Center, and Daniel James from the Passengers Welfare Organizations. But they're not here, so we continue the conversation as well.